The FNRad Snowboard podcast is presented by Vans. Season 7 of FNRad is sponsored by Wired Snowboards, the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, Anon Optics, Timebomb Trading, and Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC. Timebomb distributes Rumple blankets and accessories here in Canada. Rumple's mission is to introduce the world to better blankets. They apply modern materials, typically found in premium outdoor gear and activewear, to modernize their super rad blankets. Rumple's 6 core values sound a lot like my own: embrace the adventure, create excitement and fun, make things simple, look to the future responsibly, be approachable and honest, and promote a balanced lifestyle. Rumple's blankets, ponchos, mats, and towels are functional and awesome. Check out rumple.com or rumple.ca and enjoy free shipping on orders over $49. I can't wait to get my Rumple blanket and towel, and I'll tell you all about them when they arrive. Support also comes from Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, New Green Superfood Drink, Volcom Outerwear, and Intuition Liners. Thanks to everyone who supports the show. Jamie Lynn and his partner Deanie just had a baby. Congratulations, guys. And to celebrate, I'd like to put out this wonderful conversation I had with Jamie a while back. You'll recognize the side hit story I put out last season. This was originally going to be short episodes peppered throughout the next few seasons, but let's blame COVID for that not happening. Jamie Lynn is the legendiest legend, the kind of pro snowboarder whose long career is intertwined with his art and graphics and LibTech snowboards, Volcom Outerwear, and Vans, among others. Jamie's method has its own Instagram, and he's influenced more pro snowboarders than pretty much anyone else. Here's a fun, older conversation with the newest dad in the pro snowboarder game, Jamie Lynn, starting with the first graphic he ever drew.
Yeah, kind of a puking fire face. It was something that came about with me needing extra credits to graduate from high school.
Rad.
So I found out that I could get an on-the-job training credit if I went up to LibTech up in Seattle, up to Mervyn, and did some sort of job. But I didn't really know what to do or what was even available. But when I got up there, Pete Sari and Paul Farrell, who was kind of helping with, he was working at the factory but starting to be more of a team manager, said that if you want, you could go and help Nick Russian upstairs in the art attic. And he was up there with a heavy-duty gas mask respirator on, dealing with toxic screen print inks, pouring dollops of different colors on the tip of a top sheet material, then using a squeegee to just smear these mix of colors down the top of the board, and that went into a stack, and those stacks eventually went into manufacturing where they became the top sheet graphics. And every 2 or 3, maybe 5 or 6 top sheet graphics, Nick and I would do something for ourselves. We'd throw, I think I did a cat in the hat. I did a Native American totem board.
Wow.
That came off the design, and that Olsen had a surfboard sitting up in the corner of his kind of creative art shack, and it had a native totem drawn on it, and I just kind of replicated those shapes and made an MC. There's an MC with some Native American artwork on there that's freestyled, and that's where Nick was doing. You'd throw in like a lot of his Rocky Horror Picture Show stuff. That was kind of that era, board graphic period. But by doing those top sheet graphics, I think maybe Pete asked me, hey, if you got something drawn up, we're looking for an Acme graphic. And so I think I was probably 10th, 11th grade in high school, freshman or a sophomore. And and just started working on it at school and on the weekends or whatever, drawing up just some little sketches or whatever I could develop.
Had you ever drawn anything before that?
No, not necessarily for any graphic job. That
like
was
for
definitely.
I just mean like. Would you do art at
high
home
school
or
art
just
class?
yeah?
Nothing auxiliary, nothing out of school, nothing like on my own. I didn't have an art setup or anything. It was just kind of grab a piece of paper and a Sharpie. Yeah. That I stole from art class or whatever, and, and drew it, and then took it up there on a Friday, and then I think I just did the line work. I don't even think I did any of the fill or any of the coloring of it, but that black line art they filled in with some color and printed it up for a top sheet, and it really truly became my very first board graphic that I've ever been a part of.
Blows my mind because I know that board, and I would have had no idea until you said it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, there's some elements there, because you could tell a Nick Russian too, right? Like when you see his graphics.
Definitely.
Or a Perillo. When you see a Perillo, you're like, oh, that's a Perillo, and that's the humble beginnings of Jamie Lynn art.
That was probably 89 or 90s, early 90s.
Yeah, because that brochure was 93, 94. No, 92, 93.
Okay, so it was probably 91 is when I painted it. And then I was like sophomore. Yeah, I graduated in 92.
And then did you have creative design over your own top sheet right from the get-go for your own pro model?
Yeah, they definitely gave me the option to come up with my own graphics.
Cool.
And in the early days of graphics, we were kind of, our banker, finance guy, this guy, Randy Copeland, he also owned a printing company called Printing Control. So all of our graphics were printed through his printing company, but it was limited to, a 4-color offset print. And I didn't have any idea or concept even what that was, so he had some night courses going on as far as like courses to learn printing and offset printing, 4-color process printing at his workplace after hours. So he got me or gave me the opportunity to go to a couple of these classes and try to learn more to help direct the artwork that I was doing to better fit and apply to a board graphic. So after about a week of taking these courses, during this time Mike Olson was kind of figuring out how to translate, like the kind of art that I was doing was really watercolor, very vivid colors, and a lot of watercolor feel is always a hard thing to translate with any kind of printing. Mm-hmm. But while I was taking the courses trying to figure out how to print my board graphic, Olson got a hold of, I think, Paul Schmidt, and Paul had some new boards that had came out that had this beautiful full-color picture graphic with a process called sublimation. So, as I'm trying to figure out how to print these things, Olson goes and gets 3 test skateboard top sheet graphics and sonic welds them together into a usable top sheet for a lamination test, and gives it to me on this MC, and it wrote amazing. It was like so much damper than the other top sheet material that it rode like it felt like a tank where I could go through anything but was still flexible and torsionally perfect. But that in that process of figuring out that graphic, we had done a test graphic of an octopus. We probably printed them up, probably 4 or 5 of them, just as kind of just a test run to see how it would look. And the results were not so good, and I was thinking, how are we going to pull this off? And then out of the blue, Mike comes up with this sublimation technology, and that ends up being the first board graphic of mine in 94.
Where did the whale and octopus come from, like idea-wise?
You know, I had a third grade teacher named Miss Eggleston.
Nice.
And she was on Vashon Island. And I remember her curriculum being, we read The Underground Railroad by Harriet Tubman.
Rad.
And she taught us about whales. That was that's what I got out of my third grade year in school. But she was an awesome teacher, and she would take us out in the hall, and she would walk out 100 feet, and we'd tape it, and we'd go, oh, that's how big a blue whale is.
Rad.
And, you know, whales she'd take us out in the parking lot, and she'd show us a Volkswagen Bug, and she's like, the average humpback whale weighs about as much as this Volkswagen Bug here. And just, you know, all the different kinds of whales and what they ate, and plankton, and just the whole their environment. And we watched a lot of like National Geographic style movies about whale song, and in those visuals I was really like just seeing a whale underwater, and the gradation from the light near the surface to the darkness of the depths always kind of gave me this kind of intriguing feeling of just coming from light into the dark, and then having the whale kind of get picked up by the light coming in from the surface. I always thought that was a beautiful aesthetic. So that's where the inspiration, I think, came from. That first whale graphic was.
Did you have to do 10 or 20 different whales before you settled on the ones that you picked, or was that the first go at it?
It was the first go at it, just because I
Wow.
didn't know any better. You know, I didn't know you could do thumbnails or sketches. I just thought, okay, this is it. This is one panel, and I'm just going to see what. And, you know, I hadn't really worked too much in the medium that I tried it with, but I was working with like a tempera watercolor.
Yep.
And some illustration board, like a cold press illustration board that you could go back over and not, you know, not tear up the paper or the surface that you were working with. You could move different colors over it without it deteriorating.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, and then I remember the octopus having a similar vibe. Like the two boards really did go well together. There was there a center graphic that had like a border around the outside of it?
Yeah. I don't know why that first year had like so many. There's like 2 or 3 randoms.
Yeah.
In there. There was like the whale graphic, that was like the one.
Yep.
But then there was like a Japan octopus version.
Yep.
But then there was this like a face that was exploding into birds and swirly stuff. Like that was one of the first year graphics, but that one really doesn't really get much.
Yeah.
You know, and then there was the mini version, the small board, had a guy, cat, and a bird drawing that I had done, and it was kind of boxed in this frame, positioned kind of off on the whole board, and I forget about those.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
those are kind of lost in obscurity sometimes, but really, you know, I worked on those just as much as I remember working on the whale graphic and the octopus graphic. But I still think back about why, and I couldn't tell you. I honestly, I don't know.
That's a lot of art for one kid first go at designing snowboards. I mean, the story of LibTech's graphic, the very first one with the skeleton cat. Or was it a skeleton before it was the cat, or was it the skeleton cat?
It was the skeleton before the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just such a classic story of Mike and Pete's, you know, oh, you say we can't use this? We're going to put it on every board.
Yeah.
We're going to use it for everything. You say it won't sound great because
it just fueled their fire of just like, you know, tell me I can't do something again.
Yeah, please.
And then allow me to prove you wrong.
So that era, the skeleton era, lasted a year or two, and then it was that Acme and that the painted top thing was going on with the doily print top sheets.
Yeah, and then Matt Cummins came out with a couple. He did the tree graphic.
Yep.
And there was a couple offshoots of that.
Yeah.
And then it kind of transitioned into the Radical Rick era.
That was such a
which
crazy,
was amazing.
That's that same year, right? Like,
Yeah.
so he's having the guy who actually drew Radical Rick for BMX Plus draw that graphic for his base. Is that right?
I'm not sure if it was, what was that guy's name? It wasn't Bob Harrow. It was Damien.
Yeah.
Damien. I'm not sure his last name.
I
Damien.
remember his signature from the magazine.
Yeah, that's how I just flashed on it. As Damien. So I think it was inspired by a Damien original, but it was Sean Donnell.
Yeah.
From Bend, Oregon.
That did it up.
Yeah, came up and did the Radical Rick. He did the van looking over the surf.
Yeah.
Like, he did a lot of really incredibly historically important graphics.
And I think those graphics happened at the same time as the whale, right? Like, I think it was.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I transitioned out of like riding a Radical Rick base into like kind of the same year. I might have split one, got it halfway through.
That was like TB2 or something, right?
Yeah.
TB2, I remember your standout part in that was just like, okay, we got to spin off the toes now. Like, we have to. We have to. It's so fucking styly. This is.
That was
great.
That was like the first Superpark, I think, up in Tahoe, up at Squaw. I mean, that whole session, my God, I can't tell you how amazing it was to be a part of that. To watch everyone that was there just throwing down amazing stuff, and just fun to be a part of it, where everyone was amping and juicing off one another. Noah and AV and Roach, and it was really cool.
That's incredible.
Good session.
That's incredible. So did you do every board graphic for your board from that time straight through?
Yeah, essentially. I think maybe the second year I got help with one of the the script on one of the smaller boards.
Yep.
By a woman in Portland named Miss Mickey.
I remember that script. Yeah, that was badass.
Yeah, and there was one that was like a mandala tree. I don't know if you ever remember that one, but she drew that mandala tree. It was just kind of like this mandala-inspired tree of life.
That was after the Buddha Cat board.
Yeah, right around those first 2-3 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Buddha Cat board. Did you know that Peter says that he was just trying to do your board when he did the rainbow board? Because remember, you had it was like brown with a rainbow, same year as the Buddha Cat. Yeah. And I think
it's like the hibiscus graphic.
The hibiscus graphic, that's it. And he was trying to do the kicks, those flop kicks from that it was an adaptation on not really the MC kink.
It was a
flop. It was a different thing.
Yeah, it was a different little kink, but it was a derivative of what MC had done with that kink nose, which was groundbreaking in itself.
Yeah.
He just wanted to jib everything and freestyle wall ride stuff,
Yep.
Do log pole jams on logs. Like, that's really, I remember him saying that at the time. Like, I just want to be able to freestyle on everything.
That's right.
Not having your nose or tail jam you up from getting down.
And then you had like a smooth take on it. That I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember looking at that curve being like, wow, this is it. This is what I need to have,
Yeah, I mean, it was such a, I don't know, the reality of that, you get it in powder and it becomes such a snowplow. Or it would flip so much snow and do like a rooster tail thing and like corn.
Yeah.
Where you're throwing this massive rooster tail behind you and just depositing snow in your back pockets.
Yeah. So imagine Peter's disappointment when he says, like, I think he just tells them what he wants, right? He's like, it's got to flop over like this. And then he gets that low-profile Division 23 with the, it's got barely any kick to start out with, and then it's just got a little nick on either side.
Just a suggestion.
A suggestion of a bit of a floppy kick. But
what an awesome board, though. What an iconic board.
It worked, right?
We all saw him do such amazing things with that equipment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Were you guys close at that point? You guys ride together?
Really never. Like early Washington, Northwest Series days, we were all kind of in different cliques.
Sure.
I definitely had the guys that I grew up with and rode with from Auburn. We had our crew, and, FGHC was our moniker. It was Ford Granada Hardcore. We had a friend Dylan that had a 76 Ford Granada, and we just stickered the crap out of it, painted FGHC on the hood.
Rad.
Drove it up to Sealand Park multiple times with skateboards and the ski racks and hash in our metal pipes stuck in the foam of the ski rack, and probably acid underneath the grip tape.
That's a pretty good move.
But yeah, it was...
Kind of bringing sand to the beach, though. There would have been a lot of drugs up here in those.
Yeah, we would go straight to Granville Street and get some hash and go to the beer and wine store down by Sealand and grab a couple flats of beer and just camp out at the park throughout the weekend. And
what a cool park.
We were in hog heaven.
Learning that perpetual motion of skateboarding. That park it's seen some history, man. I think it was built in 79.
Yeah, so amazing. I watched the movie.
Oh, did you?
History. Yeah,
I'm so dumb.
To have it be one continuous pour.
Wow.
Never intended to be pumped back up.
Ever, right.
The designer thought it would just drain into the toilet bowl at the end and just continue doing circles until you lost momentum.
Yep, that's what I did for years, man.
And really the kind of it takes, you can do it on modern equipment, but I'll tell you what, 169s with some soft PAL bones, wheels was really great equipment for getting down and then back up.
Yeah.
With hard compound wheels and smaller trucks, it's a little bit more challenging just because it's such a rugged surface now.
Yeah.
You definitely need a more contact.
I need to follow someone. I can't pick up the line on my own. I need to see somebody do it. There's a certain line over that first hump that puts you over the,
Yeah.
And who would have been down there when you guys were driving up back in the day? Would it have been?
I met Dave Boyce.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Him and Rob lived near there.
Yep.
And Dave would come down and he would bring us stuff out of his mom and dad's pantry.
Oh my God.
Drop us off soups and top ramen noodles and
amazing.
Macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
And this was in '87.
It's amazing.
Wild. And 86, I think, was the contest that was up there. And we went, as soon as we saw that, we were just okay, that's a skate park.
Mm-hmm.
There was no skate parks anyplace else. That was the only one that I had ever seen or ever known about.
Wow.
So, I ended up meeting Dave there, and he was always cool and really cool reconnecting with him later on through snowboarding.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I met Sean Kearns there first time.
Sick.
And he showed up. It was a wild story. I'm not sure if, my facts are correct, but we were skating and Sean and his buddy turned up and his friend had this one-piece coverall suit that was, he used packing tape maybe for a belt.
Yeah.
And just, a little not your usual attire, but nothing to sweat at all. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Great, awesome individual coming to have fun doing what we all love to do. And for some reason, there's another guy there that started flipping this guy's shit for how his get up was, and Sean wasn't standing for it. Sean was like, "Hey man, what are you doing? You're vibing my friend out. You're calling him names. You're fucking with him. Fuck off. Get out of here. What are you doing?" So these guys end up fucking beefing, fighting, and they fought. And Sean fought this guy it seemed like forever. They would fight and get tired, and they would stop, take a break, catch the breath, and then go back at it, and just keep fucking battling until finally this guy got his ass kicked, and Sean, you know, told him, hey, get the fuck out of here, man. You're fucking, you know, there's no place for that here. And I always thought, oh, wow, man, that I didn't really know him. I just, hi, my name is Jamie. Hi, my name is Sean.
Yeah.
That was it. And I always thought, leaving that thing, was like, wow, what a fucking friend. What a fucking great friend. Like, Sean was a champion. He just stood up for his homeboy and fucking fought for him. Would die for him, you know, like fought for his friend that couldn't. You know, his friend wasn't big, wasn't strong, wasn't like, couldn't stand up for himself. And here comes Sean and just goes, you know what, fuck that. It's bullshit, you know.
It's unreal that guy's taken that strength of character. You know what he does now? He sits with parents who have lost children. He sits with them as like holding space. Like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely amazing strength of character, and I have the utmost respect and admiration for him as a human.
Yeah,
know.
Me too.
Just incredibly talented, but, you know, really taking a true belief in what he feels is right and applying it to humanity, and that's very admirable.
And rare. It's super rare, dude. A guy like that. You know when you're sitting with him, you're watching the wheels turn, and you're like, there's something different about this guy. Just the way that he's, like the integrity that where he comes from is like totally legit.
Yeah, I'm super proud of him, and it's been too long since we reconnected physically, and I can't wait to someday soon get that opportunity.
Yeah, take a ferry over to the island and just hang for the weekend, and he would love it.
Wow, but cool.
You told me today, about your first pair of Gore-Tex pants. You knew from experience, maybe from that day of seeing Rankwit come in 2 hours after you guys had called it quits for raining, that you wanted to have Gore-Tex stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the early, like, idea of just like, wow, you know, I was in the lodge, I was wet, I was cold, you know, way longer than we had been in. Rankwit was still out enjoying the day. He comes in like an hour after we had gone to the lodge to drink hot cocoa and sit by the fire. He walks in, takes off this North Face jacket with this matching bibs, shakes the rain with one like shake. All the rain falls off this freaking jacket, and he sets it up dry on the post, and I'm going, wow. And I'm looking at his shirt, and his shirt's freaking dry. I look down at my shirt, and it's fucking soaked to the bone, man. Whatever my outerwear kit was, it was not an outerwear kit. You know, it was a makeshift sweatsuit jacket with maybe 3 or 4 crew neck sweaters underneath. So, but growing up in Washington, like, I just felt like it was a world away. You know, Sunnyvale, California, and Joel and Sessions, and then seeing like little snapshots of it, like on Cab's board at the Boomer Ramp, or like, you know, Kidwell and Palmer at the Breck Half Pipe at the World Champs. They all had Session stickers on, and I always thought, like, wow, if I could just get my hands on one of those Session stickers, that would be like the cat's meow. I'd be hyped.
Yeah.
So a friend and I hitchhiked out I was 14, hitchhiked out to Colorado for I think it was the 87 World Championships. And had $40 to our name, used the only $40 that we brought for a chairlift ticket to drop that ticket to get my friend up to the half pipe. And then when we made it up to the half pipe, we came across Rankwit and Roach.
Rad.
And secured a place to stay for the weekend in their hotel room. They offered it, and it was awesome. But the highlight of that moment was watching Roach drop into the end of the half pipe and doing a half cab out of the half pipe for the first time I'd ever seen anyone do a half cab.
Rad.
And I was just like, wow, it blew my mind. I was like, that's what we need to do from now on, is more of that. And really was like cab everything from then on.
Yeah, man.
Kind of became that mantra. But
that's so sick.
But that weekend we went down, and I think we were too young to go out to the bars at night, so we just stayed in the hotel room of Rankwit and Roach. And I think Roach and Rankwit maybe had just gotten on GNS. Maybe Chris was still with Sims. Rank was riding GNS, so there was a shit ton of GNS stickers, and with those GNS stickers, there's a bunch of session stickers laying around the hotel room on like the coffee tables and stuff. So I think we pinkled every session sticker we could get our hands on and filled our our backpacks full of whatever sessions swag we could get out of this hotel room. We survived on that and the pizza crust that was in the pizza boxes. That's all we had for the weekend. And then it was cool. I think we went and watched the half pipe contest, watched Craig and Palmer battle it out, and remember watching Hawk in there when he was 15, just ripping. And
you were just a kid from Auburn at that point?
I was 14, 15 years old, and just hitchhiked down there with a family friend that was going to a family reunion in Golden, just right outside of Summit County.
Amazing.
So they dropped us off in the parking lot on Thursday, then Sunday afternoon at like 3, 4 o'clock, they came and picked us up, and I think we took a heavy dose of mushrooms and got in the car with this family that was like a minivan, and we drove from Summit County straight to Salt Lake, and right when we were just in the middle of this mushroom trip, we get dropped off on the front door of the Mormon Tabernacle Church in Salt Lake, and we go do the tour of this church with this family, just higher than biscuits.
Wow.
It was like the organs and the choir and stuff is going off. Man, it was so wild. I'll never forget it. I don't remember the rest of the trip. All I remember is just like flying through Wyoming higher than Jesus, and then getting to Utah and just getting dumped out on the front porch of the church. And it's like, all right, here you go. Here's Utah.
I'm stuck on this image of you as a 14-year-old kid at that TDK World Pro. And are you a fan at that time? Like, are you trying to get autographs from these guys? Or are you just...
we were just snowboarding, man.
Yeah.
We didn't.
What board did you bring?
I think I had that GNU 168.
Oh my God.
My friend had a Switchblade.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And that was like our kit.
A couple of kids just riding around Breckenridge.
Yeah.
During the World Championships.
And, not really having any money or anything, we just got creative with getting on the chairlifts. We all have those stories, but I think the first ticket we bought was legit. And I think we probably clipped or somehow hustled any way we can get up on the chair. Yeah.
You would just make magic happen. People would have like a little, like a little pair of side clippers in their pockets.
Yeah. Just a little pair of dikes.
Yep.
Wire clippers.
Yep.
I mean, there was ether, spray. Mount Hood breeds all sorts of inventive ways to get a chairlift ticket.
Because they were expensive before anything else was expensive.
And there's
they're cheap now.
It's like hike all the way up to the half pipes at 3:30 or 4, and you get maybe an hour before dark.
Totally.
Or figure out a hustle on a chairlift ticket. I think it just goes to show you the draw and the focus of wanting to do something so much you're willing to risk going to jail.
I remember Swag, or could have been Sessions, had a lace loop for your belt that had a snap on it, so you could actually snap your ticket off at the end of the day, give it to your buddy.
Yeah, you could share it.
Yeah.
You could go on separate. I mean, it's...
And weed pockets,
it is,
like a weird weed pocket in the fly or whatever. That shit was awesome. Those were the days. It's like, okay, we're kind of...
Old soup kitchen stuff.
Soup kitchen, we're derelicts.
Best.
Yeah,
they're the best.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, the Sessions thing, when you get to Sessions, you get to ride, I think you were in that Outer Limits jacket for that first, maybe even TB2, the end of TB2, TB3 for sure.
Yeah, and it goes back to seeing Rankwood in the North Face kit and seeing like the benefits of Gore-Tex fabric, and then doing whatever it took for me to get a North Face kit myself, and then just utilizing that through multiple seasons successfully, and just knowing the performance of it was just superior to anything that was ever offered in snowboarding up to that point in time. And then when I started riding for Sessions, it, and Joel kind of given me the opportunity to help develop his outerwear program, that was like the first order of business, is just get Gore-Tex involved. You know, it's like $7 a yard for regular treated fabric. It's $14 a yard for Gore-Tex fabric at the time, and it's like twice as much, you know, and it was hard for a small skate-based company from Sunnyvale, California to wrap their head around like the need for something like Gore-Tex. But I think Joel knew, you know, he does it enough and knows the importance of just, man, it could make a real difference in how long you can stay out in the mountains enjoying what we love to do. And
I feel like he took a hit on margins. I think that he told us, maybe he didn't take a hit on margins, but whatever he did, he really was like, look, you don't get Gore-Tex. Like, you can't just buy it. You have to like license it.
We had to go and submit our designs. We went out to Elkton, Maryland, to the Gore facilities and went through a full like Gore-Tex schooling about its properties and
designed
the membrane.
For the space program? Is that where it came from?
I believe that's where the basis of the science came from, and the membrane technology was space NASA derived.
So rad. That's so rad.
Yeah.
How cool was that trip to Maryland?
It was amazing, you know, like going through all of like, it's like a, you know, a full course of laminate membrane technology and being described as water vapor is like a basketball, and moisture vapor from, you know, heat and evaporation is like a ball bearing, and the membrane's like a fence chain link.
Yeah.
So, you know, the water vapor can't penetrate, but your evaporating moisture can. And it all works with heat convection, with the heat of your body, and your recreation and activity creates the heat that then pushes it through the membrane to the colder air outside, and it keeps the moisture and helps it breathe. But it's all windproof, waterproof, and just amazing stuff.
Warm and dry, yeah.
Worth the extra, worth the 200% increase in the cost, because the benefit was just, you know, so much more.
Well, it's cool because there isn't anything else that works in this rainy, drizzly climate. Like, I can remember being back in Ontario, when it's minus 40, you just need a warm sweater and then anything that cuts the wind.
Yeah.
But as soon as you add moisture, that stuff is miserable. Like, dragging around a soaking wet coat, it's just, it'll ruin your day.
You know, one of the things we learned from Gore-Tex is that wet conductive heat loss is 20 times greater than dry. So that, you know, kind of goes to show that when you get that into that moisture, it's just quicker to lose that heat retention. 20
times. That's incredible. So you must have done almost 10 years on sessions before. Was there a transition to... It was to Volcom right from there?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of, you know, there was a mutual relationship for a time when I was riding for kind of both companies, where Volcom just made soft goods.
Yeah.
And Sessions just made outerwear.
Right.
So then throughout the 2-3 years into that relationship, Volcom 96, 97 starts to, you know, enter into outerwear about the time that Joel decided to start SD with Salman Aga and Tim Brosh.
Right.
And start their like denim program and more soft goods program.
Yep.
So it became, you know, like kind of like I had to make a decision one way or the other.
Yep.
My heart was with Joel. Internally, he always had problems with like production managers. There was a lot of employee turnover. It was hard. He was based in Northern California, and all the resources were down in Southern California. Working with him with the outerwear stuff, to get samples made, there was always a 2-week delay just because you had to send stuff out. And when I was working with Volcom, they had in-house sample sewers where they could instantly translate your ideas into hard goods or soft goods right, within a day or two. And I don't know, I always kind of felt guilty ditching Joel.
Right.
But I just felt like Joel wasn't really posed to open himself up for, evolutionary strides or growth, or just, he was just comfortable in his little pocket in NorCal, and that was, where he was
had a
gonna
lot of
stay.
irons in the fire too, right? Like, because he had the punk rock side of the business, and he had, I remember being like, whoa, wait, they have like a skier jacket? I remember we ordered it, we didn't even know it was like a ski.
He was really, him and Brad Holmes, and Shane McConkey.
Yeah.
He'd really started one of the first companies to really branch out into skiing and support skiers that were punk rock skaters.
Totally.
That maybe knew how to snowboard too, but they just really loved skiing, and they're from Tahoe, and they're fucking are incredible, talented humans, but having it be so early in the dynamics of things, it kind of,
I don't think it hurt them as much as it was just like the exact thing you were mentioning was that it would show up late. I think it showed up late once or twice, and that's just, it doesn't sell then. You know what I mean? Because you basically have from when it shows up until Boxing Day, and then the whole industry at that time just switched into this like panic mode a lot of the time to just like dump everything, so you lost all your margins, and half your order hadn't showed up, and then Joel would be calling going, you want us to ship you the rest of your order? And so you're like, no, it's a little too late now, dude. But we never had Volcom for the first 10 years at the shop. It was the Boardroom had competitors like on either side of the street, and West Beach had Volcom wired, and but now, like the line now, holy jeez. And they've done the same thing with Gore-Tex. I think a lot of people should know that Sessions was really the very first company to put out Gore-Tex pieces that weren't ski company influenced at all. It was their own cut and sew designs, and that they literally broke the barrier to like the most.
Yeah, Joel's decision to put faith in in us and what we were recommending for a direction, really changed the whole dynamic of snowboard outerwear for us as we know it. Now it's just kind of a given that if you're going to make the highest technical piece, it's done through a Gore membrane. Still
now, yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's been fabrics that have came close and touted the same kind of abilities, but really, I've yet to, in real life, put it through the paces and have it perform the same way as Gore.
Yeah. I think there's a reason. But, I mean, then it could just be good branding, too, sometimes really good branding.
I think it's easy to hate on just because they have such a monopoly on everything, and other companies that can't afford it or can't meet their minimum requirements or their design requirements easily just go, you know what, fuck, who are these pompous, self-righteous assholes that think that they know everything about outerwear, and it's probably a good thing to inspire them to try to develop new technology.
Stuff that's better adjacent. That's
just
good.
Progress, and maybe it takes someone like that to be that entity for evolution and growth to happen.
Right. Yeah, because you got to have something to strive for. It's so strange that that's the way that consumerism happens, hey? Is that you get this top spot, like a Burton does, and then you've like, what's your incentive to not be, you know what I mean? You don't want to not have that spot. So now you use your privilege to get the best materials or the best riders or the best this or that or the most, dealers or whatever the hell it is. But then the people who really care about, the progress of the sport tend to gravitate away from those bigger companies, except for Vans.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of the bigger companies like pick this route that just goes like, fuck, way nuts and selfish and just taking care of like their tight knit group of executives that now get to reap the benefits of all these years of hard work from all the people in the field and on the ground and in the warehouses and stuff. And it's just, it's a shitty cycle that you see from a startup company to a company that's been in business sense successful. You know, but there's a lot of casualties along the way. And at the end, if they're not putting back into a sustainability that gives back to the community, gives back to their employees, might take care of their bills and put food on their table for them, but they don't have to rush out and buy their 10th house, you know, vacation home somewhere. You know, they can still just live a somewhat modest lifestyle of success, but it doesn't have to be in the millions and billions of dollars when there are a lot of casualties being left along the way with little or next to nothing for all that hard work that they put into it as well.
You're making me think Mike and Pete. Like Mike and Pete, there's like a difference in the way that they ran their company always. I fucking love those guys for that.
They're the best. You know, even in those lean times of just survival, it was all just for trying to continue to do something that they love to do and something that they're good at doing. You know, and if they're the kind of people that probably couldn't, I mean, I know Pete's an amazing, smart, educated human, and so is Mike, but they might not be the dollar and cents type of people to balance a checkbook and make moves to maximize their assets, you know, like fuck. That just doesn't seem like it's part of their vocabulary, which is awesome, and that's what makes them such beautiful, honest, open, true human beings, you know, that they're not bean counters and they're not financially minded deviants. Because that seems to go hand in hand with dollars and cents.
Can we talk about the first Vans boot? What were you riding up until that time?
Wow, I was riding Airwalk boots.
Okay, everybody was.
Yeah, I mean, I had for a hot minute. I got sponsored by Airwalk.
Rad.
Went
Lisa
down,
Hudson style?
Yeah. And then, that was, I mean, Lisa Hudson is such a beautiful human.
Yes.
So many, I mean, huge thanks and gratitude for her and what she's done to help everybody. But my relationship with her in those early days was really awesome, and she's the one that then introduced me to Vans.
What?
And,
really?
Yeah, and it was through Cheryl Lynn. I don't know if you remember Cheryl, but she was kind of like, she worked for Vans at the time. Introduced me to Cheryl. Cheryl took me to Vans one day, and we sat down with, you know, it was the owners at the time. It wasn't Steve Van Dorn, but it was Schoenfelds. And the Schoenfelds had like a huge department store that I'm familiar with the name up in the Northwest in Washington. So I went and had a sit down with them, and they were just like, hey, we want to bring you on board. We want to bring you, Palmer, Cersei Wallace, together for a new project where you each get your own boot. You each got, this is Sean's design, this is what Cersei's leaning towards. So if you could like give us some designs in the next month or so, we'll try to execute whatever you're thinking. Kind of gave me a blank canvas, you know, and just said, hey, whatever you want, let's try to do it.
Rad.
And Jared Bevins was huge in those early days of that production side. And I'm not really sure where. I think it was just looking at a boot outline and trying to make a boot outline, like just a blank outline of a boot, fill in the gaps and make the lines seem like they work. And a lot of my basis of where my design influence was just kind of get something that would be anatomically functional for a foot. But then have some styling to it and be made out of a material. You know, I grew up in the Northwest where there's a lot of logging, a lot of farming, and Danner boots were a huge part of the, you know, my history of my grandpa and my dad or whatever, and these leather boots just got better with age. You know, whole grain leather, simple lace up, but just the more you wore them, the more they wrapped around your foot, and the more they became your foot, and each time they got wet, it just got better and better. So trying to convince them to use a whole grain leather was a huge, like, man, it's like pulling teeth. Everyone wanted synthetic, cost effective. You can make fake leather that looks like leather, but it's just crappy synthetic plastic, you know, and I fought them trying to get just whole grain leather. But then once the end result came out and I wore it, and it just got better and better as, you know, each time that I wore this boot, it just started fitting and functioning better. We were working with Intuition with their liners, and that liner technology was like massively awesome. Totally. With the combination of that outer with the leather lasts and stuff.
That was the first boot I wore for 2 seasons. Like, you couldn't physically wear a boot for 2 seasons. It would just fall apart. That was the thing. Yeah. And this boot was like, like you say, it was broken in such a way that it was like better year 2. It was soft as fuck, but it was perfect. It was just like such a perfect fitting boot. I love that boot. Even the toe design, I can think about how the toe design was aggressively like copped. It just, but the grips in the snow made sense too. I think they went 2 different ways or something. There was like,
it's got a great sole pattern on there.
Yeah,
we really tried to minimize the material on your toe cap, you know, and really ramp the toe cap so you got the least amount of toe drag as you could humanly possibly get with the boot, you know. Yeah, it fit more like a hiking boot or a shoe more than a snowboard boot. Totally. And that's what it just had, that kind of styling aesthetic to it as well, along with the function. But you know, each year we did it for 3 or 4 years after that first initial boot, and it seemed like each year we had to make consolation, costs, production, hang-ups, logistics, and then just kind of phased out into whatever it became. But I always reflect back to that first project and that first opportunity to work with a boot company, any boot company for that matter, but to develop something with that kind of free reign opportunity, it's once in a lifetime, you know.
Your signature was on there. I remember that being stitched on there, embroidered. Was there a graphic on it too?
I can't recall anything other than just a signature hang tag style.
It was such a simple design, but it was an expensive boot, like, because they should have told us about the full grain leather.
Yeah,
I mean it sold out.
And that's what brought the cost up, and then that's what eventually killed the project, is trying to, you know, they're looking for big margins, and I'm looking for big performance, and they just don't go hand in hand a lot of times with the production of a product. And
looks like your boot that you designed, you did a limited edition of last year, is just sick, dude.
I can't say enough about the team that helped put that project together from Vans. It really, I think it struck a chord with that original boot project, you know, and really using whole grain leather, doing it in really a simple, clean aesthetic to where there's not a whole lot going to it, but the thing performed amazing. And, you know, we're trying to get away from the original platform of a Sorel-based boot. You know, it's something that's been a goal of mine for years, but I just haven't had the vehicle or the voice to be able to apply it. The stuff that we're working on for the next 2 to 3, 4 years with Vans is hopefully take that direction and get away from like laces on your instep and put them asymmetrically placed with maybe zipper pulls or, you know, boa combinations, just doing something that's different, you know, and using the influence of like motorcycle touring boots. You know, Alpenstar makes a wicked leather touring boot that's got an asymmetrical zip up the inside and doesn't look like, I mean, you look at it and the aesthetic looks like a, you know, freaking motorcycle touring boot, and that's not necessarily the most awesome aesthetic to translate into a snowboard.
Right.
But if you use that same technology and put something that's a little bit more applicable to where we come from, maybe a skate shoe aesthetic with that kind of technology, but just have it be a nice boot to be up in the mountains in snowboarding, because that's, comfort and orthopedics and, materials and design and technology. I think your boots are your most important interface to your snowboard experience.
100%.
And you get a good boot and you get a good binding interface, and everything else is gravy.
It's true. You could ride an ironing board. You literally did with the first board, because you were a kid, right? Were you working at the shop where Rankwit was the sponsored skater?
I had gotten, I went to this local shop in the town that I grew up in, right outside. It was in Federal Way. I was in Auburn. It was a shop that was called PJ's Ski and Sports.
Nice.
But it was owned by these two stoner dudes, Steve and I can't think, his name was Rick and Steve, and they
Who was PJ?
I don't even know. It was
fictional
character. There was no relevance to the owner's name. I have no idea who PJ even was.
That's amazing.
And I don't even think he skied, but they
Right,
had I don't even know if they had skis in there maybe at one time, but by the time I got there, it was just skateboards.
Rad.
And then a minimal snowboard selection.
Yeah.
And it was in the 80s where rails and fancy grip tape and lappers and mini ribs and stuff was the rage. So when a kid came in and bought a complete setup with all the fixings, I would be the kid in the back of the shop with a drill and T-nuts, rat nuts, trying to figure out how to put on all these attachments.
Rad.
And then they'd pay me like $12 a day or something for hanging out and just being the shop kid. Most of the time they were in the back, taking bong hits while I was tending the till at 14, not knowing shit. But while I would work there and I'd be behind the counter, I'd look down in the glass case, and in the corner of this glass case was a picture of Rankwit doing a lean air in some half pipe out in Colorado, some contest. He was on a GNU team disco with a Michael Jackson GNU hat on. I think they had gotten Michael Jackson white and black hats and then silkscreen GNU on the underside of the bill for their contest kit.
Rad.
That was like their uniforms at the time, was a Michael Jackson hat with a silkscreen on it. It was perfect. But just working there, I'd always look in the glass and I'd daydream about snowboarding and not really know what it was about, and hadn't had the opportunity to get up and try it for myself. But they had snowboards in the corner of the shop. Instead of getting paid the $12, I said, hey, can you guys let me borrow one of them snowboards for a week or weekend? And got a ride up with some friends of my brother's that were going skiing, and got dropped off by their dad like way too early, like 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30. And I had 2 hours before the chairlifts opened to figure it out, so I was just hiked up the side of this chair and worked out the kinks of doing it. So when the chairlift opened, I was kind of ready to go. I could stay up and not crash too hard. And then I got up to the top of the hill and went down on my very first run, top to bottom at Hyack, up on Snoqualmie Pass. It was called Pack West at the time. Here comes Rankwit, skids down. I'm struggling somewhere in the middle of this cat track, and he slides up and he's like, hey, Jamie. He knew me from skateboarding. Said hi, and then he turned around and he went directly at this backside hip and just blasted the biggest method. And I was like, holy shit. One of these days I'm going to keep doing this until I can do that. That was it. That was everything that my goal in life was to achieve, and he just did it right there, and then I'm not going to stop until I figure that one out. But, going from that 140 back hill snowboard that first day, I finally got enough money to buy my first snowboard, and the first board I chose to get was a GNU 168 Kinetic. It was the green and black board, and it just had the funkiest Elfkin bindings on there. We can cut half of it away and retrofitted with pop rivets, the straps back on there. It was such a junk show. And this board was probably twice as big as I was tall. It was huge, the 168, and coming
you
from
probably don't ride a 68 now.
No, I don't go over 160. 161's like maybe 159 up in Alaska if I'm lucky.
Oh my God, and the effective edge on that board, we were talking about it. Like, because the kicks were so right at the end, that board was massively too big for you.
Massively too big. And somehow I continued riding that thing all through my early junior series days in the Northwest Series contests. Like, I went from the green and black one to the purple and pink kinetic, and didn't, like, until I think I got my first Matt Cummins LibTech. You know, I was riding for GNU up to that point, and then, you know, I had to make the choice of going with these new guys that were young and just doing it out of their garage and not really knowing if their future was solid or not. And my other choice was to ride for either Burton or Nitro.
Wow.
And I think Cummins was really influential in just saying, hey, you know what, these guys are doing it right, and that's who I'm going to go with.
Rad.
So if you're riding for the shop, Northwest Snowboards,
right,
you'll get one free board a year, and you'll be riding for LibTech.
Sick.
So
Sick.
That's where it all started.
Oh my God, that's so incredible.
Snowboards.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's hard to imagine you on Burton. Like, I don't know what that path would have looked like. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I tell you, I couldn't wish it any other way than the way it's been. You know, like what an incredible lucky opportunity to be aligned with the people that I've had the opportunity to become friends and family with over the last 25, 30 years.
And look at Matt still on there. Matt's still got a pro model. He's got the longest running pro model ever.
He's like, Matt's huge in my life. He's an awesome cat, and either through One Ball or through Northwest Snowboards, or just being there for us as a team rider and friend on the same company for all these years. It's been him and his brother, amazing humans.
Yeah, really amazing humans. That's incredible. That's an incredible story. All right, man, let's get the hell out of here. Been here for an hour.
Hey, thank you very much for the opportunity to.
Are you kidding me?
Wrap out, man. It's good times.
Have boosted the net worth of my show coming on here a bunch of times, and I really love you as a human being. You're a really great storyteller, and I hope that you'll feel comfortable coming back anytime you got anything you want to say to anybody. You just pick up the phone. You know that you can be on the show anytime.
Well, thank you so much. You know, you really make it easy to lose track of time.
Thanks, buddy.
And it's a rare quality, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, if you ever want to do anything on your own too, we talked about it off mic about you doing a series of you talking with those heavies that we talked about tonight, you know, like an MC or Dog or Doug from Vans, or like these people that have been monumental in your run. Dude, those conversations would just be the most amazing thing to hear. Also, though, now even saying it out loud, I'm like, those are private conversations.
You know, that's what I was just reflecting on. I was like, man, you know, I would love to have that outlet and that vehicle to be able to publicly voice those huge thanks and gratitude to those people that have been so influential and helpful in my life. But I was just thinking, maybe I should first just give them a call and say, hey, you know what, man? You guys are fucking awesome and amazing people, and if it wouldn't be too out of place to publicly voice that, I would love other people to know that too, but maybe we just did it.
Yeah, I think that's that, right?
I never want to have an agenda.
Exactly.
You know, I don't ever want to come at anything with like a preconceived, like this is what I am steering it towards because I'm trying to sell whatever I've got to offer. It's like that's why I think it's so comfortable and easy when we get together and we talk about different stuff, is like, and we make it feel so natural and so real. I don't have an agenda, you know. I don't really, other than just sharing good times and just for the sake of storytelling, you know. Like,
you've got this wonderful archive of stories that have people that are so relevant to the early days of snowboarding that listeners they just go like, oh my God, I want to hear from that guy, you know.
Just how incredibly lucky we've been to be placed in times where just incredibly rich experiences that have left indelible memories and impressions that it's hard for me to think back in those times and not see it with that incredible detail, because that's how indelible it was at the time.
I you know what, I think you've got a gift. We all have those friends that tell you a story that you were in, but they're telling it to you like as though you weren't there.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you can get 4 or 5 people telling a story about the same time and have it be just through 4 or 5 different perspectives and different eyes, and how it's digested and then how it's processed and put back out there. I think that's a wonderful quality of just being able to share from a variety of different resources, or just get stories from a variety of different people that might be around there in the same time. It's something that I think it's wonderful that you're able to be that person and be in those situations where you can get all of us that have came from this certain generation, certain time, telling the same situation but through different eyes.
Fun stories.
But have it all be relative, but wow, just how unique perspectives are.
Yeah,
that's what's awesome.
Do you know Dr. Devin? Devin from Newgreens. He was from the Grass Valley. I was riding with him, Corey Octoon, Kevin Jones, having the best day of my life, and Corey just knows he's like, Jamie did this off this in TB2. This is the TB3. This is Jamie's step over, step down. He was just bringing us around the mountain, showing us all these iconic spots. And oh my God, what a fun thing to do.
What an amazing venue, just Squaw Valley in general. And holy shit. The history of so many people laying down stuff there. Yeah. To be a part of a time where we got to do that, like, wow. Oh yeah, that amazing. Diving board under the KT-22. I can't even see how you would have done it. I can't even imagine having at that time in snowboarding, the balls to. Did you cab 5 it or something? I'm not sure exactly, but all I remember though is the early up privilege that we got to go shoot that morning. Yep. And how pissed off everybody was at the chairlift when we got back down. They didn't care if we just did some amazing line. Everyone does amazing shit up there, They're just like, fuck you, you fucking, god damn it, you just got KT on a fresh 2-foot powder dump blue sky morning, and it was just that was the
did they run the chair for you, or did you guys go up on sleds?
We got early up on the tram with the ski patrol. Wow. 7:15, 7:30s, hatchets had that stuff on lock, man. And no one can go up there and just pull that kind of shit off. No. And those guys had it really like it was in their back pocket. Yeah. And being a part of those crews that got to access that, like, whoa, chance in a lifetime. Chance in a lifetime. And then to go up there with the crew that we were up there with, like Parada and Farmer and Dave and Mike and Tom Day and Noah and AV and just Roach. Man, there's so many, like Steve Graham, Zabo at times, just... And Jerry and Artie too. Fall Line Films was a huge part of that kind of Tahoe introduction. Yeah. With Sione kind of leading, into RPM and Roadkill. Right. Spent a lot of time getting stuck, snowed in at Donner Lake at Jerry's house one time. And they were editing Roadkill. So it was that first, No Effects introduction song. Yeah. Stick in the Eye. Stick in the Eye, yeah. Over and over and over and over and over again, to where now I can't not see that intro montage when I hear that song. Same. It's indelible in my head. When I drive up the Mount Baker Road, that's in my head. Those images flashing in my head. Yep, them driving that limousine. It's like a 78 Caddy limo.
It was so
I
sick.
had no business going up Mount Baker Highway. And how it even made it up there, it's amazing. But wow.
That's such a
Yeah.
great time. Awesome. Thanks for sharing your life with me, buddy.
Hey, my pleasure, brother. Anytime.
All right, dude. FNRad shoutouts this week to Jamie and Deanie and their new baby. Congratulations, you guys. And special thanks to every last one of you listening right to the end. Love you all. And be sure to watch your feed for another episode of the FNRad Snowboard Podcast presented by Vans and brought to you by SIA Productions.